So Wes comes in the pod, right? He's got no money, right? He's got no bread, nothing. And he's hungry. So he comes up to the homies and he's like, listen, he says, I'm going to make a name for myself and I'm going to do it quick. We're like, how are you going to do that? He says, watch and see, watch and see. I'm going to get it done. So I look on his books and he's got $0, right? And no money pending. So I'm like, man, how's he going to show us if he's got no money? What he does, he goes up to the store man. Store man's got soups, he's got sodas, he's got honey buns, he's got wham whams, he's got zuzus. And he goes up to the store man and he fronts $20 worth of commissary. He gets 10 soups and he gets 7 honey buns, right? And I said, Wes, how are you going to pay back store guy when you don't got no money? He says, don't worry, I got it like that. I'm like, what do you mean you got it like that? You have $0 on your books. If you can't pay him back, what are you going to do? You're going to borrow from somebody else to pay him back? He goes, nah, man. He's like, it's not even like that. He says, trust me, I got it. I said, okay. So what Wes does is he takes his 10 soups and his 7 honey buns. And so this is the way it works. So on Tuesday is when commissary comes in, right? So that's when everybody gets their replenishment, is on Tuesday. You have to have your orders in by Friday, okay? So that means everybody is out of commissary on Monday because everybody's trying to eat. Everybody has ran out on Monday because they've ate all their food throughout the week. So what Wes does, he waits until Monday when everybody's hungry and everybody's ran out of food and everybody's like, yo, do you got a soup? And Wes is like, hey, he's like, I'll give you 3 for 1 if you pay me back on commissary. So what he does is he gives somebody a soup, 1 soup, and they got to pay him 3 back. So boom, he does that with all 10 soups and he does it with all 7 honey buns. So then when commissary comes, he gets back 30 soups and he gets back 21 honey buns. And I see the people, like when commissary comes, they got their bags, they put it in their laundry bag. And like I see them, they got their thing and they're going over to Wes's door and they're just like emptying stuff out. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I was like, he told everybody he was going to do it. And here he is, right? So the deal that he made with the store guy was, the deal wasn't he had to pay him back on that Tuesday. The deal was he paid him back in 30 days. So boom, that gave Wes enough time to start racking. And so that's what he was doing. He just waited until Monday every single time and just started 3 for 1. And then when commissary came, people were just dropping loads of commissary in front of his cell. So it was amazing to see. So boom, he's doing that. And instead of getting soups back, he's saying, hey, instead of giving me soups, why don't you pay me in sodas? And he's telling the other guys, hey, instead of paying me back in honey buns, why don't you pay me back in candy? So then what he starts doing is he gets all the white guys together and they get their oranges. And like every couple days they'll give you oranges. Sometimes they'll give you like different fruits. So what he's doing is having all the white guys save all their fruit. And so they're taking all the fruit and then they're putting it into plastic bags and they're letting it ferment. And then after it ferments, all the candies, so the candy is like mostly like 100% sugar. So they're using the candy as the kicker. So boom, so then Wes starts making all kinds of moonshine and he's doing it big. What they do is in the shower, there's a drain. Well, they made a key. They had these little bolts and you need a certain key to undo the bolts. Well, they somehow made a key out of a fingernail file. They had like sharpened it down to like it fit perfectly. And so they had their own key, like the maintenance people. So they just unscrew it and they pull the drain out. And then what they do is they put their bags in there full of their moonshine and it just sits there. And then they put the drain cover back on. And so when the guards are going by, the guards don't even have a key. The only people who's got a key is the maintenance people and Wes Watson. And so he's getting away with it. And the guards know, they're like, man, how is all this moonshine coming in? But they can't figure it out. And so they're shaking down people's cells. They think the blacks are bringing it in from visiting. They think that the others are bringing it in from the outside. They think guards are bringing it in. They have no idea how this moonshine is coming in. But Wes seems to have it on lock every single day. People are like getting into fights and you hear people like they'll start slurring their speech and it's getting reckless in there, right? And none of the guards can figure it out. So they call it's like a jail-wide shakedown where they basically shut down the whole jail. They go from cell to cell and they rip everything apart, right? So that's what they're doing. They're going, they have the dogs, they have the canines, the stupid dogs are running in there barking and stuff. Like, I don't even know what they're looking for, right? I think they're just hungry. I seen one of the dogs and he was trying to eat one of the peanut butter and jelly sandwiches that Bubba had saved. The dog's like, it's like, Max, come on, Max, you're supposed to be looking for drugs. Let's go. Dogs are so stupid, especially those dogs, those idiots. But yeah, so they're doing the shakedown and they cannot find it, but they know that Wes Watson is controlling the moonshine. So they can't figure it out and they can't put Wes in the hole because they got nothing to get him on. It's all suspicion. So what happens is Wes starts giving it out, giving it out, giving it out. They know what's going on. They can't do nothing. So then what happens is Wes meets his guard. Her name was Ashley. She was a dime, all right? And Wes starts talking to her, and the girl is like, she's all excited that Wes has got all this commissary in his room. She's like, oh, you got so many Pepsis, you got so many orange sodas. Oh my gosh, look at how many honey buns you have. And she's like getting all excited about the jailhouse commissary that Wes has in his cell. I'm like, how is that exciting you when you can go out and you can have regular Domino's pizza? But the chick was like starstruck seeing how much commissary he had in the room. He had so much commissary, he couldn't even keep it in his room. He had to keep it in other people's room. That's how much he had. So the girl, she starts like getting real friendly with Wes. And she says, Wes, I want to try some of that moonshine. I heard it's so good. And everybody said they drank it and they took a couple sips and they felt it. Oh, it was so good. So then Wes starts giving her some. And the girl gets pulled into the lieutenant's office. And the lieutenant's like, hey, I smell something on your breath. She's like, no, it's mouthwash. And the lieutenant's like, that ain't mouthwash. That smells like jailhouse Pruno. And she's like, I'm not going to admit to anything. And the guard's like, listen, he's like, we don't care about you. We don't care about that. He says, the only thing we care about is busting Wes. He's like, if you give us Wes, then we'll let you off the hook. And you know what she does? She stays solid to Wes and she doesn't say anything, right? So they fire her. But what happens is that before they fire her, what she does is she has clothes, right? They're kind of small, but what she does is she takes her extra clothes and she sneaks them in and she gives them to Wes, right? So Wes has got a guard uniform, he's got a badge, he's got the holster, he's got pepper spray, he's got a taser, right? He's got everything, and he's got one of these IDs. So whenever the jailhouse staff want to go somewhere, they just take the ID and they go like this and it buzzes them in, right? There's no keys. So Wes has got all of this. And so I go up to Wes, I'm like, Wes, I said, what are you going to do with this? He says, what you think I'm going to do with this, homie? He says, I'm getting out of here. I was like, are you serious? He's like, yeah. So what Wes had been doing is he was taking his moonshine, and instead of everybody paying him in because he had so much commissary, what he started doing is just collecting green dots. And then he would take the money from the green dot and they'd type in the numbers on the Cash App and it would all go to his Cash App. So Wes, he came up to my cell, right? And he showed me his Cash App. Dude had $15K in his account, all for moonshine. I couldn't believe it. Just like, but Wes, how'd you do that? He says, what I tell you guys, I told you I was going to run it up, right? I was like, man, I said, that's life-changing money, Wes. He says, you're damn right it is. I'm like, man, this dude is doing it big, right? So I'm like, he's got money, he's got a uniform, he's got a badge. I'm like, homeboy is gonna do it, right? So what he starts doing is, remember that key I told you that he was using for the drains? What he started doing is he tagged his name on the wall, right? He wrote Wes was here. And then when he wrote Wes was here, a big chunk of concrete fell off the wall. He's like, it's that easy to knock off concrete out of the wall? So he chips a little bit more. Well, the thing is, the jail was so old that the concrete was starting to rot. So every time you jabbed the concrete, it fell apart. It was like Play-Doh. Just came apart. It was so easy. So Wes is like, yo, he's like, I'm going to make a tunnel. So this was Wes's plan, right? What he was going to do was he was going to use the guard's uniform, right? And he was going to try to go out legitly. Or I'm sorry, other way around. What he was going to do is he was going to try to tunnel out. And if for some reason he couldn't get out through the tunnel, then his plan B was he was going to put on the uniform and he was going to go out the front door. So that way he had two ways of escaping. So all the white guys have to go in Wes's, like not in his cell, but like outside of his cell. And while Wes is digging, there's one guy in there and he's flushing the toilet so that there's no sounds. So you got one guy flushing the toilet. You got another guy standing in front of the cell, basically just standing there like keeping guard, making sure none of the guards go by and see what's going on. And he had a poster, right? It was a poster of, Margot Robbie from the movie, what's that called? The Wolf of Wall Street, right? He had a poster of Margot Robbie. And so whenever he would get done working on his tunnel, he would put the poster over it, right? So when the guards came by, all they saw was the picture of Margot Robbie. Like, guards would go by and be like, hey, nice poster. And Wes would be like, yeah, thanks. They had no idea there was a tunnel being built under there, right? So each day, Wes just goes, chips a little bit more, and then what he'd do is he would he'd put the concrete in his pockets, and when he'd go out on the yard, he'd go like this and he'd shake it out, and so all that tunnel was just being distributed in the yard, right? Dude was a freaking genius. So days and days go by, and it's getting hot, right? Because you don't know who's gonna snitch, you don't know who's gonna tell. Luckily, all the white boys stayed solid. Nobody said anything, right? But so finally the day comes. Wes is like, all right. He's like, I'm gonna tunnel out. He says, who's with me? And every white boy was with him. They all raised their hands. They're like, I'm with you, Wes. And Wes is like, listen, man. He's like, I can only take 2 of you with me. He says, I got $15K. He's like, I'll give each of you $1,000. You can go start your hustle. He's like, but I can only take 2 white boys with me, right? And we all understood, because we understood that Wes was in there for a crime that he didn't commit, and so Wes took the other 2 that were in there innocently. So you had Wes, you had Mark, and you had John, right? And what happens is they go in there, and Wes goes first, Mark goes second, and John goes in. Now John's got some weight on him, right? John's climbing through, and he gets stuck, right? So what we do is we take some bed sheets and we tie some bed sheets together and we make like a rope and we try throwing it into John, and somebody goes in and they tie it to his feet. And so then all the white boys are out like tug of war trying to pull John out, right? And we just can't get him out. So John's like, listen, he's like, instead of pulling me out, I think I can go deeper into the tunnel. So why don't you let me go forwards instead of going backwards? We're like, okay. So what we did is we left the rope tied to his feet, and he just went forward. Well, he went forward and he saw a tunnel. But what it was is Wes had built 2 tunnels. One tunnel that he built was he started digging in the wrong direction. So when he realized he was digging in the wrong direction, he went the other way. He went right, and that was the tunnel that actually led to the outside. Well, the dude starts going in the wrong direction towards the area that Wes had dug. That was, it just came to an end. Like you just came to concrete, right? But it was like, okay, so how do I do this? Let me show you. All right, so make pretend this remote control is the tunnel, okay? This way is the correct way. This way is the wrong way. So the dude's going here, but what it does is it goes down like this, right? But the dude's thinking if he goes down, he can get out. He thought that was the way the West went. So what he does is he goes head first, like this, right? And so he goes head first, and literally he gets stuck upside down in the hole. And by this time, Wes is already out. Wes is gone. And so, again, we take the rope and we start trying to pull out. But what happens is he starts losing circulation in his legs. And if you know, when you start losing circulation in your legs then become sensitive. So when we're trying to pull him, he's yelling. He's like, stop, stop, stop. It hurts too much. So then we stop. So the dude's trapped upside down. So Eventually, we have to ring the buzzer and we have to tell the guards because the dude's going to die. It's either press the button and save his life or just leave him there. So the guards came over, and the guards go down there and they're trying to pull him out, and they can't do it. So what they do is they call in an experienced cave rescue squad, okay? And what they do is they bring in pulleys, these round pulleys. And since it's so tight in there, what they do is they take the pulleys and then they drill them into the concrete, into the area where that was still solid, where it wasn't like falling apart. So what they do is they put the pulleys in, and then they take a rope and they tie the rope to his feet, and then the rope goes up onto the pulley. That way they have more leverage, right? The pulley it was just all about leverage. So they're just pulling him. They had a doctor go down there and they gave him a shot of morphine so that he wouldn't feel any pain. So they're trying to pull him out, and as they're pulling him out, boom, the pulley snaps during the rescue process, and boom, hits the rescuer in the head, right? So now the rescuer is bleeding down there, can barely see anything. He's like blinded because the blood had went over his eyes. He can't see anything. So he has to get out of there because like he might just die down there himself. So they pull out the first rescuer, and then they realize, hey, they're not going to be able to save John because it's just too dangerous. He's wedged into a spot where he just can't get out. So what they decided to do, and this is real controversial. A lot of people were mad about this decision, and it was sad. I don't even like talking about it. It hurts to talk about it so much, but they ended up leaving John down there, and they took wet concrete and they poured wet concrete in there and they sealed it off. And John is stuck down there to this day. He's down there and he'll never get out. And it's hard to talk about because that was a true story. Yeah, he's down there right now. But I'll try to get on with the rest of the story. So Wes gets out, right? First thing he does is he goes to Bank of America and he says, "Hi, my name is Wes Watson. I want to take some money out from my Cash App account." And they said, "Okay, sir, you're going to have to download the app on your phone." And Wes is like, "A phone?" He's like, "I don't have a phone." And the lady's like, "You got $15,000 and you don't got a phone?" She's like, the lady thought that was kind of suspicious. How does this dude have $15,000 with no phone? So she goes in the back and she calls the police. "Hi, 911. Yes, there is a suspicious man here, and he's got a bald head and he's got a lot of tattoos. And he's trying to pull out a large amount of money, and he doesn't seem to know what he's doing." "Yeah." "Okay, how long is it going to take you to be here?" And the 911 operator just said, "Hey, just keep talking to him, keep him there as long as possible, and we're going to be there. We think he's the guy we're looking for. We think he's Wes Watson, and he just escaped. So we're going to be there." The lady's like, "Okay, I'm going to try to talk to him, but he's really intimidating, and he's really buff, and his muscles are really scaring me." And the dispatcher was like, "Ma'am, I know he's intimidating, but you're going to have to hold on. We know he's really jacked." So Wes is so smart. He knows what's going on, right? Wes is like, "Oh, yeah." He's like, "Hold on, I'm going to go up to my truck real quick and get my ID," right? So Wes goes out. Boom, Wes is gone, right? Dude knows exactly what's up, right? So Wes goes and he talks to his homegirl. He's like, "Can I Cash App my money into your account? You transfer it into your bank, and then you pull the cash out and you give it to me." And the girl's like, "Of course I will, Wes. I'll do anything for you. You made all that moonshine. You're the man, Wes." And so Wes transfers his balance into hers. Boom, gets the cash. Now Wes has got a nice cash flow, right? And he's like, all right. He knows a dude who has a rim shop. And the dude in the rim shop said, "Listen," he's like, "I sell these rims for $1,500 a piece, 20s, 24s, 26s. He's like, "This is what I'll do. I'll give you sets of rims for $300 a piece, and then you can charge people whatever you want, right? And I'll give you an office here. You can basically like make this your office." And Wes is like, "You're going to give me a job here?" Dude's like, "Yeah, you're the man." And so Wes is like, cool. So Wes gets a job at this dealership. Just basically his main goal there was to take his 15 grand and sell as many rims as he could to all these ballers coming in, right? Because this is in the heart of like the area where everybody's getting money, right? So Wes knows these people are going to be coming in to buy rims. And he knew we can get the rims for the low, and he's going to sell them. He's just going to stack, stack, stack. And so that's exactly what he does. Wes works at this place, I want to say for about 3 months, right? Boom, stacks it so big. Dude makes like $1 million in 3 months, right? Takes $1 million, goes down to the Lamborghini dealership, okay? He's like, yo, how much is that Huracan? Like, Wes, that's more than you can afford, brother. He says, how much is it? He says, brother, that's $350,000. Wes takes a backpack, throws it at him. You know, just like in the movie Get Rich or Die Trying, when 50 Cent has the backpack full of money. Boom, gives it to him. The guy says, you got a license? Wes says, I don't need a license. Goes and he takes the Huracan, right? Puts it in first gear. Second. Fool drives all the way to Miami. Buys a house in Miami. After he buys the house in Miami, you're going to have to stay tuned for part 2 to see what comes next. All right? Hugs, not drugs.